Happy National Customer Service Week. Today, we are solving one of your biggest problems. We are looking at the top 5 ways to get angry customers to back down. Let's get right to it. Let's start here. In problem situations, the issue isn't the issue. Most of the time, the way the issue is handled, that becomes the real issue. So, in this session, we are going to focus on our approach so that we don't do anything to inadvertently cause the customer to raise the temperature or take it to that next level. Okay, now we're ready for the top 5 ways to get an angry customer to back down. Number one is I want you to link the communication chain. Psychologists talk about what they call the communication chain. The communication chain says that if a person puts out a message, that can be a verbal message, it can be a text message. When we put out a message, what we're trying to do is link to the chain that is the other person. So if you send a text and you're the kind of person that waits to see those 3 dots, you wait for that response, what you're doing is making sure, or hoping anyway, that the person you texted will link the chain and respond to you. And we are the same way verbally. Even if a person is upset or inappropriate or unreasonable, that is a customer in their response. When a customer is yelling or over talking you or just crossing a boundary in any way, a boundary for you, they still want that communication chain linked. But we may think, well, we don't have to link the chain because they're being inappropriate. The problem with not linking the chain with a response is we send a person to their right emotional brain if we don't respond. And so let me show you what I mean by that. I have an image of a brain, or I have a brain here, not an image. And we all know that we have 2 halves to the brain. We have the right emotional brain, which is where we feel every emotion: joy, fear, shock, surprise, disgust. Good emotions, bad emotions, all emotions, and we need the right brain. This is where we are when we are dancing or doing artwork or when I'm writing poetry. We also have the left brain. The left brain is where we are when we are completing our taxes, or if you are a student and you're doing a story problem, or you're taking an SAT. It's our logical side of the brain. What we don't want to happen with a customer is we don't want a customer, particularly one that we've had to say no to or give bad news, we don't want them caught in the emotional right brain. Because in the emotional right brain, people are going to respond emotionally. That's where they are angry, overtalk you, profanity, where they want to speak to a manager. We inadvertently push people to the emotional right brain when we don't link the communication chain. So that is the point here. When we link a chain, that is we respond. If I don't agree, maybe I can just simply say, I can see your point on that, without me having to agree with it. And I'll give you phrases in just a moment. But we have to link the chain. If we don't, we send people to that emotional right brain and they may respond to us from that right brain. We don't want that. So how do we link the chain? Here are several statements that will help you. I realize this whole thing has been frustrating for you. That is a way for you to acknowledge the friction point, the pain point. That is you linking the chain. It takes only one sentence. When you link the chain, the person feels heard, they feel understood, you've done your job, and you likely will keep them out of the emotional right brain. More phrases for you. I can appreciate that. You can say that without having to agree. I know this has been just awful for you. Now, you say that when you know that a wrong has occurred. Or, I know you're anxious to see your credit for this return. I'll do my best to find out what's going on with this. So that's a person who has a great need to know. Not only are they presenting anger, but they want to know exactly what's going on. And so you want to give them that. Try these phrases or something similar that will help you bring down the temperature, link the chain, and keep people out of the emotional right brain. All right. Number 2, I want you to blend with the customer's energy. We need to blend and make sure that we're not, butting heads with our customer. You've probably heard it said before, what we resist, persist. Okay. Which is why in my workshops, I tell my clients, don't meet force with force. When your customer is being difficult, they're off the chart mad, we're not going to meet them on that level. We are not going to resist what is. We are instead going to blend with their energy. Now, hear me out. I don't mean that, we go to their level. I don't even mean that we internalize that. I mean, you take something they've said, that negative energy, and you blend with that. Another way to look at it is there a way that we can agree with what they are saying? So here are a couple of phrases, or I think I have 3 phrases for you that you might use to blend. We want to get to the bottom of this as much as you do. And you can say that in all sincerity. You want to resolve the problem, right? You want to see an end. That's what the customer wants. And so if we get on the same page, hey, that is you blending with the customer. This is no more acceptable to us than it is to you. And that is definitely you blending. So you take that negative energy, you merge with it and say, you know what, we have the same goal. And then finally, one of my favorite ways to blend is to say, I see your point on that. I don't have to agree to say that, but I can say, I see your point on that. All right, reason number 3, or way number 3 to get an angry customer to back down. I want you to reframe that conversation. Reframe. I want you to think of a picture frame. The reason we frame artwork or a photograph is we are trying to draw people's eyes in a specific way. As an example, in my living room, I have a gallery wall. I have 6 black and white portraits of East African men, women, and children. And the focus is the stunning black and white photography of the beautiful people of East Africa. And I want that to be the only point. So I framed each one of the photos, I've got 6, in a simple vinyl black frame that I got from Amazon that didn't cost much at all. I was willing to buy inexpensive frames because I want to frame people's eyes on the photography. Maybe I want a big antique golden bronze frame, massive, to draw people down a hall. Maybe I'm trying to use the frame to draw. That is what we are doing with reframing with customers. You're going to take what they're focusing on, that negative energy, the way they want to bump heads with you. We're going to reframe that to what we can do. Here are some ways that you can reframe. You might say, we have a situation that has come about from a past issue. I want to now focus on what we can do about this problem. So what we're doing here is you are acknowledging the friction point. You're acknowledging whatever your customer is saying to you, because we have to link the chain. We still have to link the chain even though we're reframing. And then that second sentence, I want to now focus on what we can do or what I can do to fix this for you. So you're acknowledging a quick link of the chain and you're moving forward. If I were in your shoes, I think I'd feel just as you do. So here you are linking the chain, and then you go right into now. Let's see what we can do to fix this. So when you reframe, you're not getting stuck. It's not just the linking, not just the empathy. It is you moving things forward. Here's another phrase. We want to get to the bottom of this as much as you do. Does that sound familiar? You can use many of these phrases in multiple ways. So you saw this phrase when we talked about blending. You can use this to convey empathy. You can also use it to reframe as we are doing right here. And here's another one. Rest assured, I will do all I can to fix this for you. So when a person is venting and they won't let you get a word in edgewise, I want you to interject and let them know, I hear you. And I want you to know we're going to do whatever it takes, or I'm going to do all that I can to fix this for you. All right, a final phrase to reframe. I certainly understand your concern. Let's take a look and see what's going on. So every one of these phrases, you notice this, it's 2 parts. It's linking that chain, and then it is reframing. Same purpose as my simple, cheap, black vinyl frames. I don't want you to focus on the frames. I want you to stand there in front of the artwork and enjoy that. You're saying to the customer, I don't want you to get stuck here with this venting and whining and complaining. No, I want you to let me help you. That is what I am here to do. All right. Next up, I want you to use psychological priming. My background is psychology. I bring psychology into nearly everything that I do, and today is no exception. Now, psychological priming usually takes some pre-work, it takes some planning. Let me first break down what it is. I want you to understand what we're talking about with priming, and then we're going to look at how you might, after today's session, figure out how to creatively and intentionally prime your customers where you want them to go. So, how does priming work? It's best understood with an illustration. In a moment, I want you to guess the word on the screen. I've got a four-letter word here. It starts with H, it ends with R. But don't guess just yet. And if I have done this in many of my workshops on my YouTube channel. You may have seen it before. So don't spoil it for the others if you've already seen this little demonstration. Before you guess, I'm taking out my Afro pick and I am going to fluff up my fro. See if I can do that without making a hot mess here on camera. All right, so now that I have fluffed up my fro with my Afro pick, what do you think the word is? What is a word that I have on the screen that I'm trying to get you to guess? Did you say hair? Yes, yes. I'm trying to get you to guess hair. And so if I did my job right, you were able to guess that. And what I did is I primed you. I have on the screen a beautiful young woman. The focal point of the woman for me is her TWA, what's known in the natural hair community as a TWA, teeny weeny afro, that popping blonde fro. You could be drawn to her dress or the orange background, but for me, it really was the hair, and there's really no other reason for an image like this to be in a workshop on dealing with angry customers. I'm priming you. So it probably struck you as a bit odd. So psychological priming is what I just did. I used an image of this beautiful young woman featuring her hair. I used a prop, which was my Afro pick. And then I used words. I said, fluff up my fro. I emphasized Afro pick. I used those words to prime you to guess the word hair. That's how psychological priming works. Now, we, of course, with customers are not going to bring out images and props. I did that in exaggerated version. Let me show you how priming works when you're focused simply on the words. I have a client in the utility industry where they brought me in to help them control conversations. Conversations, long talk time. Can you relate to that? Like calls get out of your control. Studies show the average business call lasts 2 minutes longer than it needs to. And so I was there to help them there. And they had one specific category of complaint that almost always got out of hand. It is when a person moved into a rental property, a rental home, and they called to get their water services turned on, and they discover that they not only have to pay a deposit, but they have to pay a past due balance from a previous tenant. In this county, I've never seen a rule like this, a regulation like this before, but the past debt for a water bill stays with the meter. So meaning I could rent an apartment or rent a house and know I'm moving and just not pay the last bill or maybe the previous bill. So I leave 2 months' bills, let's say $200, and the company will try to collect from me, but if they can't, the new tenant has to pay that to get the water turned on. So it's a tough situation. And those calls were averaging more than 19 minutes. And you can probably imagine why. People are shocked, they're upset, maybe they don't have the money. So I'm going to show you how I use psychological priming on this situation. I said to my client, we need to be intentional about what we say and in the order of what we say. So here's what I did to help bring down the temperature and shorten talk time. I came up with these phrases, all psychological priming with words. As a solution to the problem of not being able to get your water on, as a solution, I have two suggestions. First, you need to talk to your landlord. Tell them there is a debt on the meter and that you can't turn on water. See if they'll work something out for you. The second option, and I would do this immediately, is look carefully at your lease and see if any clause protects you in this situation. What I've done here is I have primed the customer. I'm going to break down how I primed in just a moment. First, let me tell you, it's important for you to know how employees were handling this type of call before my primers. They were very factual and concise. The way they handled it before my priming was the debt is attached to the meter. Regardless who accrued the debt, ABC utility won't turn on water until the bill is paid. Nothing wrong with that, except people would just lose it. They wanted to know the why and what do I do? And I've just spent all this money moving, and I paid a deposit to turn on my electric and my gas, and I bought new furniture and I paid movers, but I did not anticipate this. So all of that would come out. So as I listened to calls and I listened to what the agents were saying, I realized the way to control calls is to prime the customer to take the next steps to get off of the phone. And so let me break down what my primers meant. I have the priming word specifically in bold here. 2 suggestions. When you give a person options, they feel a sense of control. And so I prime people to see the options are coming with the words 2 suggestions. You need to talk to your landlord. Here I'm priming people to get off of the phone, to hang up the phone and talk to someone who can make a difference. The words second option have the same purpose as 2 suggestions. I want people to feel they have options. And then this one, I do this immediately. Look carefully at your lease to see if any clause protects you in this situation. What I'm doing here is to convey that we are in your corner. We want to get to the bottom of this as much as you do. We want you to get your water on as much as you want that. And then finally, the primer here is protects you. I wanted to not only have the focus on options, and not only the focus of going to talk to someone who might help you, the landlord or looking at your lease. I want you to feel that we want you, that we want a resolution, that we have your back, that we're rooting for you. So the words protects you serve that purpose. And so when I use that primer, these primers, I should say, we took the average talk time in this situation down from 19 minutes and 33 seconds to an average of just over 4 minutes. So psychological priming takes some planning, it takes some work, but you can do it. You just sit down as a team and look at what do we want to accomplish, and then how do we prime going in that direction. All right. Number 5, 5th way to get an angry customer to back down is to use what I have come to call the 3W technique. What is 3W? I am so glad that you asked. 3W is for you to explain what 3 times. Here's what we know. Here's what we've done. And here's what's next. I know this sounds incredibly simple, but it can be profound in its impact. Let me give you an example of using the 3W and when I was a customer. So I should say an example of me being on the receiving end of the 3W. And once you hear this story, you're going to understand it, and you won't be able to wait to use it. So my family and I rented a car several years ago, and we drove from Tulsa, where we lived, to Austin. Austin, I think we were heading to San Antonio. We valet parked our car at the hotel. And the next morning when we go to get our car, it is wrecked. And it wasn't wrecked when we rented it, nor on the 9-hour drive. It happened at some point in the hands of the valet. And my husband was very upset. He would have been like if you could paint a picture of a difficult customer, he'd be that. And so I'm using this situation to show how you can answer the question what 3 times and take a customer who is on a level 10 and bring them down. So I remember when I could see my husband was upset, when I saw the car was wrecked, I walked up to try to bring a sense of calm. And eventually my husband let the young valet, who was a man in his early 20s, speak. When he let the young man speak, he de-escalated perfectly, textbook perfectly, by answering or explaining, here's what we know, here's what we've done, Here's what's next. I have tried to capture as close to as verbatim as I can the conversation. So when my husband finally let the young man speak, he explained, the accident happened in our parking garage last night at 7:42 p.m. A person was trying to valet park or excuse me, self park and valet. When we told him that he could not park there, the person got upset, sped off, and hit 3 cars in process. And he left the scene. So the gentleman explained to us, here's what we know. And what I noticed at this point is my husband, who had been very upset, who had been argumentative, loud, demanding a manager. At this point, he was no longer over talking the young valet. He wasn't asking for a manager. I'm not going to pretend he was happy, but he was at this moment listening. Without my husband interrupting, the young valet continued explaining what we've done. He said, we filed a claim with our loss prevention team. We have 2 eyewitnesses. We have filed a police report with the Austin Police Department. And so he's explaining, all right, here's what we've done. And then he goes right into, here's what's next. You also need to file a police report. You need to notify both your insurance company and your rental car company. Your insurance company will go after the driver. This young man took an impossible situation, an angry customer, and he brought the temperature down. He took it from a 10 to about let me say a 4, because I want to be transparent with you. It's not a magic wand. But he did it by merely asking or answering the questions. Here's what we know. Here's what we've done. Here's what's next. This is another technique that takes some planning, like psychological priming takes planning. But once you get in the swing of it and you're able to answer this, you're going to find that you're guiding people to the next steps. You're bringing down the temperature. And like that, the angry customer is now a customer that you are able to deal with, to manage. You're going to have difficult customers. People will get angry. That is how it is. So it is what it is, but we're going to make the most of it. I want you to commit to adopting and applying at least one of these techniques. You will find that it will work for you with practice. You'll grow more confident. It will be easier to execute the technique, and you will get those angry customers to back down. All right, thank you so much. Go out and enjoy the rest of your day.